But
Okay.
he has a relationship with Talon back to their Chicago days. Peters was hired as the Rockford head coach when he was there. So
We'll mention this during the podcast or during
yeah,
the web. Ugh.
Yeah, let's get on to it. Let's do it then.
is this a webcast or a podcast? I'm starting
It's
to
a
get confused.
webcast.
I call it a
Podcast.
web.
Oh yeah,
It's
gotcha.
audio. Yeah.
Audio. Look at this. This is amazing, by the way.
Housekeeping.
Amazing.
What is it?
Oreo cookie protein bar.
Oh Jesus, that's got to be
But
healthy.
it is actually is healthy.
Really?
Look at the
Flip it over.
stats. I did. Look
Give me
at
one
the
second. I'm
stats.
just posting this up to the blog.
180 calories, not bad. That's about as much as a granola bar.
Yeah, and it tastes like an Oreo cookie. Woo! Ew, it's all melted though. See?
And
It actually looks like an Oreo cookie or something that would be in the
yeah,
toilet bowl.
a reasonable
Anyway.
facsimile. This may spoil it for you, Josh, but it looks like an Oreo cookie after it's passed through.
Exactly.
Bing.
Hmm.
No, we have to touch it because it's funny.
Hold
Every
on one second. Just give me 1 second.
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because I got so many things happening at once here. Sorry, just give me 1 sec. Be
Okay,
right
no.
there. I'm just posting this
Okay.
so I don't screw up.
Where's Julie?
Every what's that?
Where's Julie?
Julie is at the player availability, and she'll be she's going to try to come in from her phone.
I'm having fun. What was I going to say? No, during the webcast we have to talk about because now every insider has commented about the Leafs trading for the top pick. Everyone.
Mhm.
To the point now that they're not denying that it's a possibility. Now they're saying, well, are they would they take Sam Bennett? Would they be trading for Ekblad? Is Nazem Kadri involved? Blah blah. I mean, it's it's
Ekblad is too close to Eklund.
There you go.
People don't want Sam Bennett because he couldn't do a pull-up.
Neither can I,
You can't.
but I weigh more.
Man, Kevin Allen, I'm gonna
But anyway,
have
we'll
your
see.
head. He's playing with me.
Who is?
It's hilarious. Kevin Allen, hold on. Nicely done. Could you just see that I'm wearing short pants as I walk back there?
Yeah,
I'm
I deny that I saw.
I wasn't paying attention.
I'm the Fred Norris of the HockeyBuzzCast.
Very hot in this hotel.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, they were saying on a show that I will not give advertising to that the
Okay.
Kings are not skating at the Staples Center,
Yes.
that they're playing at their practice facility. The Rangers have went out to Santa Monica, so basically nobody's downtown. It's all like spread
Right.
out. And nothing's going to
Exactly.
happen until Saturday.
Yeah, they're gonna. Are they practicing tomorrow? I
They
think they're
probably.
I haven't
They'll
seen.
probably
They haven't
skate.
even sent out the media. The media party is tonight though, at an undisclosed location on the beach for the Stanley Cup. That's gonna be fun. So I'm gonna do some shoots, some things from there.
Okay.
It's not that boring. It's actually these media parties are actually very fun. The NHL throws a hell of a party.
I also have
I'm
some more stuff on Jimmy Rutherford,
just
by the way.
emailing. Okay, cool. Just emailing Kevin Allen what a jerk he is for playing with me because he kept telling me that something was going on.
Hey, Mike, read my blog really quickly.
All right, hold on.
It's a short one. Let me know what you think.
All right. Did you just post?
I posted maybe about 10 minutes ago. It's at the top.
Oh, okay. I like that. Rumors.
You like
Oh,
that? I
man.
stole it from my dad, though.
Are you angling for my job, Josh? I'm just kidding.
What are you talking about?
Competition
Coach,
is a good thing, Ack.
it's
Competition is
awesome.
good.
It's totally awesome. The reason I say that jokingly is last night at the media meal, someone actually came up to me and says, "Wow." Actually, and I'll tell you who later, Josh. I won't say it on here. He came up to me and said, "Wow, that Josh Rimmer, he's really breaking a lot of stuff for you." I said,
Really?
"He's breaking more than you are." Yeah. I said, "Yeah, he is." I said, these guys, we're so lucky to have
You've piqued my interest. Type it in the chat.
him. Okay, hold on one second. I got to get this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've read it, Josh.
It's embarrassing. I actually don't know her name, Josh, but I will look it up because I got to find it.
Got it. What'd you think?
A woman from TSN. Just say that.
You didn't like it?
The one from TSN?
A woman
What?
from TSN. It was.
Trying to think. Not Larianoff.
I think she's from TSN. I have some good stories. Hold on one second. We'll start this. This is the pre-show, guys. And by the way, am I freezing up again?
No.
No.
Okay,
I
my
agree.
video. I'm going.
So I agree with everything except the Pittsburgh,
That's not what I heard.
because somebody told me something completely different. But maybe it's
Yeah.
just.
I'm told that he's like right there. He might have even had more than one interview, is what I was told.
I mean, and yeah, I mean it's possible. It's very possible. I mean,
But obviously, he would have to give up part of his or
yeah,
all of it.
I think that's a big stumbling block. I mean, you have to sell, whatever 5% of the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean,
Yeah.
It
is. I mean, it's a lot of. It's definitely a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, but that there have to be ways around that somehow. I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, wouldn't there be a conflict of interests?
Not immediately, but he could sell them. He could sell them to somebody and then buy them back. I mean, the Hurricanes are not going to. The reason you own a team is not to make money on the team right now, right? So the reason you own a team is to make money when the team eventually sells. So the Hurricanes aren't going to sell tomorrow, so he could go and be a GM somewhere, and then buy his interest back.
Well, I know that Jimmy Devellano, when he was made general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, he owned stock in the Maple Leafs when the Maple Leafs were a publicly held company.
Right.
And he had to sell his stock.
You do. I mean, I'm sure he has to right now. I'm just saying that
No. When he became GM of the Red Wings, he had to sell his holdings in his holdings in the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Before he became GM.
Yeah, he'd have to before he does it, definitely.
Right. So we'll see.
I'm just getting a photo up, guys. My thing's a little slow here. And then we'll be ready to go. We're watching the pre-show, guys.
Realized I forgot to put Pierre Maguire in there for Pittsburgh too.
That's yes. I'll put up your lower third, Josh.
About that too. Last night.
This
is what's great about.
You can put up my lower third.
No, I'm saying you put up your lower third.
I will.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Get a photo up. Everything's USA Today site that we buy photos from this USA Today sports
images
site. And they're really slow right now. So
yeah.
Hold on, I think I have one. Okay.
You can just put the
damn. How beautiful women's tennis players are.
Oh, please. A feast for your eyes this morning. Eugenie Bouchard versus Maria Sharapova.
Is that insane?
I couldn't move for an hour and a half. I was like, oh my god. They're just so gorgeous. Both of them. I mean, I'm sorry. I've been in love with Maria Sharapova for years. Just beautiful.
No, she's all that in a bag of chips, man. When throw her out of bed for eating cookies.
I think she's a free woman too, because she was actually engaged to an NBA player, Sasha Vojacic, and now I think she's a single woman, so I got a chance.
So this is from my source.
Yes.
This is the pre-show still, but that's okay. Throw it out. Wait just 1 second.
Sure.
Hold on one second. I'll
Hey,
get you.
this could be considered like an insider thing because people who watch the pre-show get
That's
the rumor.
true. That's true. Go ahead. You can throw it out there then. Thanks to reward those watching now.
I've talked to Rutherford, and there's no question that he's one of the Penguins' candidates for general manager. It appears to me he is a serious candidate, only more serious than some of the names who have already been mentioned. Rumors are he's has or will have a second interview. I will keep you posted.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not. I think he's in the mix.
If he wants to do it, he's a leading candidate. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
would you rather have a guy that's been a GM in the league for a long time, or would you rather have a guy that's never been a GM like Pierre Maguire, and everyone only knows him because of being an assistant coach with the Penguins before, and also,
he's got and Rutherford's got a connection to Pittsburgh. He was a longtime Penguin. I mean, that means anything. He played there for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Okay. It does.
I've just been told Rutherford's not ready to go golfing, and not he enjoys the day-to-day operations. So that's what I've been told. Ooh, what do we got here?
Okay, we are good. I think we're good to go.
And I'm not sure exactly. I just only heard reports yesterday, but about the reason Mike Emmerich missed Game 1 of the finals last night. It was supposedly a death in the family.
I think that's true. All right.
I have an adult star texting me.
Oh, send me that text.
She's a huge Kings fan, actually. She always texts me all the time.
Well, this is the area for that.
No accounting for taste. Yeah, that's true.
This is this is California.
Certain towns in the hills are known for certain production companies.
Oh yeah. I know.
I could send you to some really cool parties. I can send you to some really cool parties if you want, Heck, but I don't know if you'll be married.
Gosh, what are you doing?
He's a married.
I'm a married man, but it's either that or hang out with Damian Cox at a dinner.
Damian Cox would probably be watching the tennis match because he's big into tennis.
He's huge
into tennis. So they were saying on Sportsnet.
And I'm not huge into tennis, but I sure as hell watched the.
Hold on, Julie Oppenheimer is joining.
Oh. Wow!
Hi.
Julie. Hold on, where are you? I can't see it yet, but there's Julie's talking. Yeah, we can sort of hear you. We can hear you a little bit.
We saw the glass. We saw you with those.
Yes, I have sunglasses on. No, I don't.
All we see is your face. We don't see your video yet. Are you sending us video?
No, this is my face.
Okay, yep. You're breaking up a little bit. Try to get to a better area or something if you could. It's working now.
Wi-Fi. Go to a Starbucks.
They said on Sportsnet today 1,300 passes were given out for the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep, 1,327, I think they said.
It's pretty cool.
Crazy.
All right. Julie will call back in. Let's start the show, though.
Okay. Thursday, June 5th.
That's right. Thank you. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. Live today from an undisclosed LA hotel room where I am, it looks like I have one giant bed behind me, but it's actually two beds. Damn, people just gave me two beds instead of one big bed. The funny thing about doing Yeah, and they are tiny beds. The funny thing about doing the podcast from here was I realized like when I enter a hotel room, usually I just tear the thing apart. Like I'm horrible with this, and I throw if when given two beds like this, I'll throw all of my crap on one bed and sleep in the other bed. Um, so I did all this, and we're just about ready to start the show, and I realized, wait a second, that's all going to be behind me.
I was gonna say you're ripping apart the room. What are you, Keith Moon?
No, I just well, besides super gluing the furniture to the ceiling, I do I do like to do this. No, I just don't. I got here literally yesterday, the worst flight in my life. I mean, it was just horrible. Sorry there was no podcast yesterday. There was literally no way to do it because I was supposed to have time off between. I was supposed to have a layover in Chicago that got shortened, and they raced us onto this plane, only to sit on that plane for 4 hours on the tarmac before leaving Chicago, and then another 4 hours on way route to Chicago. And I was next to a very nice man, but a very large man, and I was in the aisle. This always
Was he
happens.
smelly?
He was pretty. Yes.
Aromatic. He was aromatic.
Yes, he was. He was. I was. Yeah, it was hellacious. And he was a nice enough guy, but he literally was like pushing. I literally was like this the entire time. I was pushed to the side, and then I realized, I was so tired because I hadn't slept really the night before we left. So I left so early from Philly, and I would fall asleep, and then I would get whacked by somebody walking past me, just like literally like every person who passed me didn't just like tap me, didn't just slide past me, literally whacked me. I mean, I got hit really hard, and I started counting 23 times that I got hit in 4 hours. So yeah, so we got to the hotel literally at 3:30 this time. So that's an hour and a half before the game. But in LA traffic, that's like late to the game already. So we got to the hotel, boom, got everything in here, threw everything on one bed, changed, and he wouldn't even shower, which was I was just after being on a plane for 9 hours, you just wanted to shower so terribly. So then we get down there, and we race there, share a cab because the media bus was running behind. We would never make it in time to get our credential to get into the stadium. So there's a bunch of us, and we're running in there, and we share a cab and get down there, and literally got to my seat at 4:59, so 1 minute before the game started, after traveling for literally 14 hours, I guess, altogether. And yeah, it was but the first thing I saw when I walked into the LA basement was I came face to face in the elevator with Janet Jones and Paulina Gretzky. And it was I have to say, Paulina in person is definitely all that.
Was Paulina doing the pose that she was doing on the magazine cover?
No, she was not. But she was pleasant though. She was very pleasant, and Janet Jones still looks friggin' amazing in person. And holy cow, I ran into a bunch of celebrities last night at the event. Which is really what it is in LA. It's an event, not just a game. But yeah, let's go ahead.
Well, let me, before we talk about the game, the crowd reaction, I was surprised how pro New York there was.
Oh, I know.
It was almost like almost a 50, well, not 50-50. I'd say about 70-30 LA. There's a sizable New York contingent there.
I would say there was, it's a what, a 20,000 seat stadium roughly. I would say there were probably 300 New York people there, but they were, 300 to 500, and there were a lot. I mean, that was a lot though, and it came off as a lot. And they were loud.
Loud 300 then. Wow.
They were very loud, and where I was sitting. We were in the auxiliary press box, which is sort of within the stands, where they take a whole section of the stadium and they put a big table, and then you have your chair, and then a big table across the entire row. So we were kind of in the middle of that, and we had Rangers fans just not too far from us. And yeah, Julie and I were commenting on it. It was really something. There were Rangers fans right from the get-go, and from the get-go the Rangers looked good. It was a frantic first 8 minutes of the game, but it was let's get right into it. Then I've got some other good stories for you guys.
Mhm.
And then we have some news and we have some rumors. So we're gonna go through this whole thing today, the power show for you all. Let's talk about the game first. Let's start with you, Josh. What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, it seems the Kings play their best when they're down, when they're not playing, when they're losing, and
It's
same
not just that,
story
You're
happened.
so right. It's not just that, but they're so. How could
It's
you
like
even
a
say?
light goes on, Eck. The
Yeah,
light goes on when they're down and they turn into this different team.
yeah,
Happened against the
yep,
Sharks.
yeah.
It happened last series. The last game.
I
Chicago
know.
was up 2-0, and it's unbelievable. I can't explain it. It just seems like a light goes on when they're
There's
down and they start playing a different kind of hockey, more dominant.
They're so zen. There's a
Yeah,
real. That's the only word I can use for them. They're a zen team, and what's funny is their fan base sort of gets this too. Like they
yeah,
understand now. Like normally when you fall down a couple goals in a game in a playoff game, you would feel that sense of tension, that gets the crowd where everybody's like nervous. Never felt
yeah.
that at all. Never felt
Have
that
you
in the
ever seen
slightest.
a team like this before? Like a team that loses first and then comes back, or is losing, I should say.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anything like this in hockey. A team that always goes down, a couple goals first or a couple games in the series, and then they come back, and it takes adversity for them to come back and win.
Yeah, it's like you want to skip the first periods of every game. They don't matter. You want to skip. It reminds me more of there's more basketball teams like this. This is kind of like a bet. There's some championship basketball teams that play like this, but you want to skip and even the first couple games are not important. It feels like it's just going to depend on how the whole thing. It's basically just telling the story. Is this going to be a crazy comeback or what?
It's almost like a thoroughbred. Let me make
Yeah,
that
yeah,
example. A
yeah.
thoroughbred in a triple crown or a horse race, they don't want to lead the whole way. They want to kind of be right there, and near the end when they're losing, then they make their step forward. I mean, that's kind of what it is it not?
It feels like that, and it also feels like
Yeah.
they lull you. Like I think there's a lull. I think there's a lullness, not an LOLness, but there's a lullness to this whole thing where they lull a team. Like our old dog Bert the dog was like this is something we were just talking about the other day. He was a dog who was small and feisty, but when he would get next to a big dog, he would immediately lie on his back and say, "Oh, I'm all submissive" and everything like that. And the other dog would be like, "Oh, okay, that." And then eventually, by the end of the day, he would own that dog, and he was just like his way of saying like he would play this
Whoa.
game. You know what I mean? He would play this game. And the Kings kind of do that. They don't come out with everything. You think, oh, wow, we can beat this team. And then when you let down, they come and the
Exactly.
momentum, you can't get the momentum back from the Kings. That's the weird thing about it. Like normally once they take the momentum from you, you can't get it back. That's what I think, Josh.
Well,
Mike?
they definitely have a sense of the dramatic. I'll give them that. But I mean, I also think it's a bit of a collective attention deficit disorder because honestly, I mean, now yesterday was different than the first three games of the San Jose series because I thought they were basically out to lunch the first two games in San Jose. The third game in LA, it was an overtime game that they lost, and then they came back from 3-0. Yesterday, they I think it was similar to Game 1 against Chicago, where they were sort of like just in a funk for early in the game. The Rangers get the 2 goals, get up 2-0, and then as the game went along, the Kings took over. And I think basically, and then the third period, they outshot the Rangers 20-3. It was a completely dominating performance. And I have to say, the last minute to minute and a half of the third period. Okay, I'm just getting some
Sorry.
weird. Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I think we're all back now. Josh, you there?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You were sounding like a robot there. Beck.
I don't know how much of my diatribe was.
I don't know what came over or not.
I heard you.
Hear it, but you heard him? Okay, then it probably did get recorded. Then I probably just was sitting there saying, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
Which I guess no one heard.
I was just gonna say that the last minute and a half of the third period was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just like people, like people who are hockey fans or hockey reporters. I mean, everybody. Twitter blew up in the last 90 seconds of the third period saying, "What the hell's going on? This is phenomenal."
Yeah, it got really. I mean, the one thing that I think took the Kings by surprise, and talking to them afterwards, this was definitely in their mind, was, and let me know if I'm going in and out or not. I'm trying my best here because I have this sort of a wacky internet connection. But one thing that really struck me talking to the Kings afterwards was the fact that they all, to a T, basically said they were surprised by how fast the Rangers were.
Mhm.
The speed of the Rangers was really something else.
Now,
And you saw that in the last minute of that game, and the Kings back and forth. Mike.
yeah,
Mike.
I mean, but and some of the commentators this morning stated what I think is a genuine concern, is that they think that the Rangers are at top gear right now. They're maybe in fifth gear, and this is as good as they are. This is as good as they can get. Whereas they think LA has a higher gear, and if they do, then basically this is going to be a short series.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the third period, right? We saw that in the third period. We saw LA sort of get into their mode in the third period and take over. I thought, and I mean, there was the shots were 13-0 at one point in the third period.
Right. It was 20-3 overall in the third period, but I mean, and they didn't have a shot in the third period for the first 12 minutes. But
when the Rangers did have a shot,
like I said, at the end,
when the Rangers did have a shot in the third period, they were like incredible opportunities. They had 3 chances.
Shorthanded.
Yeah, shorthanded, a breakaway, a 2-on-0, and a 2-on-1. So yeah, they were kind of nuts. It was kind of a nutso situation.
And normally I don't agree with a lot of things, and not anything personal. Just sometimes I don't usually agree with things that PJ Stock say on Hockey Night in Canada. But the penalty called on Boyle in the last 2 minutes of the third period is just something that should not be called. I mean, I understand that the referees are going to call whenever a stick is slashed and it's broken. They're going to call it. That's basically mandatory. But come on, it's a 2-2 game in the third period of a Stanley Cup final game, and you're gonna call that stupid penalty? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. They act like it's one of those plays that it's like the equivalent of hitting the puck over the ice. It's not it's not debatable. But and we've seen it happen before in the playoffs. I remember it happened to Claude Giroux one time, and the Flyers lost the playoff series because of it. The same play. It happened to John LeClair at one point, I believe, against the Maple Leafs. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I mean, it's definitely one of those things that's really, it's. I guess they have to call it, but and you could argue that okay, Boyle doesn't have to make that kind of a play either. I don't know. To me, that's a little bit over the top, Josh. I mean, what were your thoughts on it?
You broke up there. Sorry, what did you say?
Sorry, guys.
We were talking.
Yeah, I'm hoping this gets better in near my Wi-Fi. Yeah, my thoughts were just your thoughts on no penalty.
On Brian Boyle's penalty, Josh.
Brian Boyle's penalty.
Yeah.
That was the stick one, right?
That was the slash with a minute and 30 some odd seconds left to go. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. Again, and I talked about this a couple series ago. It seems it hasn't happened too often as much as it did maybe the first 2 rounds, round and a half, where referees, wouldn't let the guys play, and it seemed like, the crowd's there to see them. And that's kind of that play where, I don't understand why it was called. I don't like that penalty to begin with. I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. It's they have to call this, I guess, and it's just, I mean, it's very, sticks break all the time. These sticks are not, these sticks aren't good sticks. I mean, we see how easy they break.
Yeah, and with a lot of those sticks, and I play men's hockey all the time, and I use a one piece stick, and there's a spot on that stick. If you like hit it, it's gonna snap.
Yeah,
Like there's a little, I don't know where the part, obviously where it is. I think it varies from different stick, but if you hit it at a certain spot, and that's from the manufacturing, that stick's gonna split in half.
yeah.
And I play with you know it's a men's beer league. It's guys that were never good enough to go anywhere. And if a guy lightly taps your stick, I've had my stick break in half before.
It's true, and so I mean, and Boyle went pretty aggressive. Was a pretty aggressive. I mean, he did
Yeah,
go. It was an aggressive shot, and it's a bad break. It didn't. I'm glad it didn't cost them the game. I'm glad it wasn't a deciding thing, but yeah, I mean that was the other thing that really one of the things that really struck me about the game last night was the goaltenders' different styles. Like these are two goalies who are obviously really good top NHL goalies. They play exactly the opposite game of each other,
Mhm.
um, and you saw it. Quick, Quick is way aggressive. He's out on every angle. He's out there. He's often 5 feet in front of the paint. Lundqvist never's maybe 6 to 8 inches in front of his goal line. I mean, he's the width of his skate blade out from his goal line, and I thought was interesting, Mike
There,
or
there was
Josh.
an interesting observation. I think it was by Eddie Olczyk during the broadcast yesterday that the Rangers, I think maybe their scouting showed that Quick may be vulnerable when the Rangers are playing behind the net
Oh
because
yeah,
it forces him to play on the goal line where maybe he's not comfortable. He looks very fidgety compared to some other goaltenders when the play is
yeah.
behind the net, and then they try to either curl around or pass out in front, and you catch him deep. I think like you said, I think he lives on the outside of the blue paint and wants to cut down the angles, and is very. And we know how he's almost like a gymnast in net in terms of his flexibility. So. Whereas Lundqvist is just somebody, he hugs the goal line. He's played that way his entire career. And I mean, I don't know if what the Rangers are doing is going to get underneath Quick's skin or if it's a vulnerability, but I think we'll see as the series goes along.
Well, it's really interesting you brought up that point. We're actually talking about it in the press box. That Quick was really skitterish on shots, not just on shots that went wide, even like plays that were pucks that were behind. He was in general. There was a whole. He was, and he always is. He always has been. He'll do this thing where he'll completely spin around. He'll do a 360 angle where a shot goes wide and Lundqvist doesn't even move. He's literally Quick is like spinning completely.
Yeah.
He got burned on a goal. We remember in a couple goals in the Chicago series, I think, on this,
Yeah.
where guys got past him and then banked it in off of him. Brendan Saad did it, I believe, once. Yeah, it was just that was definitely the scouting report, and you could tell that the other thing was that the Kings had the scouting report on Lundqvist was to shoot what we had talked about, shoot all the time and from everywhere, and that's what they were doing. They were shooting from everywhere, and Lundqvist there were moments when they almost beat him in the third period on shots that would have been considered really bad goals if they win, but Lundqvist made the save somehow. But they were just firing from the boards, firing from the boards, firing from here, firing from there, and Justin Williams, when he got that, took that shot, he didn't take long to get it off. He put it right towards the net, and found the spot, and that's where you're going to score on. That's where you're going to score on Lundqvist, up high, because his whole body is covering the bottom of the net. Josh?
Yeah, I just had some breaking news fed to me, guys. I know we
Okay.
haven't really gotten into that segment yet, but
All right.
wanted to pass along. Apparently, Brian Burke has told people in Calgary that the Flames are likely to make a organizational announcement, likely Friday. So I don't know what that is. Maybe Burke's becoming the GM again. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, apparently. Hold on, I got another one coming in. Apparently, it might be Craig Conroy moving up again. Maybe an assistant GM under Trevelyan.
There
Brad
we go.
Trevelyan.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense in terms of Burke likes to have at least 2, maybe 3, sometimes even 4 assistants to the GM. Like in Toronto, he had Fletcher, he had Dudley, he had Nonis, he had Poulin, he had Claude Loisel. So I can see him adding bodies, adding guys who getting the feedback from a number of people, and also divvying up the responsibilities that a normal general manager would have to maybe take a little weight off of Treliving as a new GM.
I think we lost Zach. Did we lose Zach here?
Well, we'll continue until he comes back.
Wasn't Conroy an assistant coach already with the Flames under Feaster, or am I wrong in that?
I know he's been in the organization since he retired, but I don't know. I don't exactly know the role. So but I know that he's well respected in that organization, and they like him. They liked him a lot. So it makes sense that they would promote him. Act, we have you back?
Oh. I don't.
No, he got you now.
Okay, it's funny because.
Yep.
What happens when I freeze out because I'm running the show, or because the show's running from my computer? I'm learning you guys are still okay to go, and I think you're still going out on the. But I'm just totally frozen. So when that happens, just keep talking.
We'll cover when that happens. But
yeah.
Tell what you were talking about. Oh no, Mike was just talking about how Burke likes surrounding himself with lots of assistants.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
We have in Toronto. That's what we were discussing.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one of those guys, and I think that this wouldn't surprise us at all. I mean, I've heard Dave Poulin's name mentioned out there too, so it's another one of those guys that they're really familiar with.
That's possible. That's possible, but the thing is, I don't know if the Leafs would let him go for he's not going there to be more than an assistant GM, and he does have a contract with Toronto. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's possible, but it may be part of the whole culture change in Toronto that maybe an assistant GM leaves. Getting back to the game for a second here, Rick, before we move on to rumors and stuff.
Yeah, let's do that.
The one thing that was interesting last night, and it'll change in Game 2 because John Moore will be back for the Rangers, is the fact that Alain Vigneault played to death Ryan McDonagh, Girardi, Marc Staal. I mean, McDonagh played over 30 minutes. And I don't know, I know from talking to players and to managers, when a player starts playing 28, 29, 30 minutes, he normally starts making mistakes that he normally wouldn't make just simply because he's physically just worn out. And I think that may have contributed to Girardi's giveaway in overtime yesterday. With Moore back in the lineup, they'll be able to balance their 3 pairings a little more because I don't think Alain Vigneault trusts Rafael Diaz as far as he can throw him.
Yeah, I got that impression too, and it was interesting. Guess what, guys? I actually brought my bell.
Nice.
I just said it was interesting. I got the impression from talking to people after the game that they were playing these guys so much because they had this extra day off, and they knew, and the Rangers hadn't played for a bunch of days, so their thought was, okay, we can get through this game, and and then Girardi and McDonagh played really well. Josh, you watched the CBC version of this game last night, I'm assuming?
Yes.
I was hearing a lot of talk today down at breakfast with people about saying that they were kind of calling out Don Cherry on this at the end of the game. Apparently, he was talking about Ryan McDonagh and having played poorly and not really putting it on Girardi there at the end. Did you see this?
Did I see it? No, because I was passed out.
Okay. Fair enough.
All I remember is Justin Williams scoring last night and me going.
That's it, yeah. That's so funny. Well, the talk was, that he was going after Girardi for this. He was going after McDonagh and not Girardi for the mistake at the end of the game, and that said McDonagh was out of position, which really wasn't the case. And then, of course, people were going to the Girardi's Canadian, McDonagh's American. But I'm not so sure about that. But the whole thing was just something I was wondering because I didn't see that. Josh?
Well, speaking of McDonough spoke with the media moments ago, saying at that point of the game when we have to understand it's not the right time to leave the zone, and I left the zone. So he's taken a little bit of the blame on that Ek. And
Yeah.
also Vigneault speaking with the media moments ago, saying he has not yet spoken with Girardi about the final play. It was a bounce that unfortunately didn't work out. Vigneault, in watching the film, one thing that is very evident to me is we will not beat this team if we all don't bring our A game. Vigneault says the Kings are one of the best teams I've seen in a long time. Adds a B effort won't cut it in this series. We have to be better. They play their game plan to a T, and they don't deviate from that. It's tough to exploit any areas because they're that good. And for 40 minutes, we went head-to-head with them. We were one shot away. McDonough has gotten better as the playoffs have gone on, and McDonough has been the Rangers' best defenseman of late. That's all from Vigneault.
Yeah, he's been their best defenseman all year, I thought. I mean, he's a great defenseman. And there was a little interesting moment last night in Vigneault. Vigneaul's the press conferences afterwards where Vigneault basically said, you know, he was at a loss for what had happened in the third period. Like, he didn't know exactly why. Suddenly it was there when they had played two very even periods. I mean, the shots were 21-21 after two. You know, it was 2-2. It was a dead even game. And then suddenly the Kings take the first 13 shots of the third period. And you could definitely tell that was one of those things that really, and it was interesting. His reaction was like, well, I'll have to look at the tape. I don't really know what happened. And I think you know, it's kind of an honest thing for him to say, but it was also sort of a surprising thing because you have, you know, I've seen this before in covering Vigneault in the Vancouver Stanley Cup final. That he's not the greatest at post-game press conferences, and he doesn't like to talk about this kind of stuff. So it does put them in a little bit of a bind. And then the other funny moment was Julie asking Daryl Sutter a question. I don't know if you guys heard that or not, but she asked him, how do you explain the fact that you basically shut them down in the third period? How what changed it? And he said, well, it was really Jonathan Quick. And then Julie said, but you were out shooting him 13-0. And he's like, was that a question? It was just a funny moment. It was good to see Daryl Sutter and Julie go head to head. That's all I was going to say. But no, but it was true that, I mean, they had three really good opportunities in the third period that Quick made great saves on. But for the first 12, 13 minutes of that period, they totally dominated. And I think they basically dominated by just keeping the Rangers in their own end. I mean, that's what the Kings do. They didn't let them out of their own zone. It wasn't even a matter of anything, So you get that sort of in the Stanley Cup Finals that we don't get in the rounds leading up to this, is these two teams who don't know each other. And there's definitely a feeling out process in this first couple games that you really don't get. Like, we really basically, like, the Kings knew the Hawks, they knew the Ducks, they knew the Sharks. And now they're looking at a Rangers team that they know got to the finals, but how? How did they get to the finals? So that was the story. Mike?
Well, I just think that for Game 2, what the Rangers are going to have to do, I mean, they can't be outshot 20-3 in the third period, obviously, but I think that they're going to have to use their speed and create some more offensive opportunities. I know that there was some criticism of the fact that they're using their fourth line and third line as much as their first line, and guys like Rick Nash and Marty St. Louis and Brad Richards should be getting like more ice time than the guys like Dominic Moore and Brian Boyle. But honestly, I think Dominic Moore and Brian Boyle played as good as their top players. So, and I think the key to the Rangers' success in the playoffs so far has been the ability to balance their four lines and have these guys being fresh deeper into the series. They're coming up against a team that is just as deep as they are. So this could be a situation where they were better than Montreal. They were a better version of than of the Montreal Canadiens in the conference final, where they were just as deep and they were better in quality depth. I think this instance the Kings are not as fast, but they're bigger and they're just as deep as the Rangers. And if they do what they did last night, this is going to be a 4 or 5 game series. I picked the Kings in 6, but this could be a short series if the Kings continue to dominate like they did late in the game.
It'll depend, like Josh said. It'll depend on the Kings, because the Kings, as good as they are and as resilient as they are, also haven't necessarily shown that they can put a team away in 4 games. You know, like they're not. That's not what they do. You know, really not. Their, Josh, Mike.
Yes. Sorry, I got
Oh, sorry.
another thing which I wasn't gonna.
That's
Well,
okay.
okay.
Hold off.
Oh no, I was just gonna mention Pat Foley just won the Pat Foley just won the Foster Hewitt Award.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this before. You know who else
Just
won the
wanted to
Foster
follow.
Hewitt Award?
For he'll be going into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
You know who else won this award? Josh, is am I live? Can you
Yes.
see me? Okay. Is Kevin Allen? Kevin Allen got the Foster Hewitt Award
Yeah.
too.
The Elmer Ferguson Award. Yeah.
Oh, the Elmer Ferguson. I'm sorry. The other.
He got the writing award though.
The writing award, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
So they're both going into the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. It's well deserved on both sides of things. 2 Hall of Famers. So we have a Hall of Famer who does our show with us, and he'll be back doing some shows soon, perhaps even tomorrow.
There you go.
Yes, that's not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, so let's get on to some rumors. And I'm sorry for the quality of my video today. I'm going to have to try to rig up something else tomorrow and see if they can get me a hard line up here or something, because or I'll try to find another place to broadcast from. But let's get into some rumors. I wanted to start with one that I heard this morning, which is that it doesn't seem like Pierre Maguire is the leading candidate in Pittsburgh. And talking to somebody last night too, I heard that they were definitely leaning towards another direction. And then we've heard some more things today, Josh, regarding Mr. Carolina there.
Yes, that is correct. From one of my good sources who knows Jim pretty well and knows what's going on. Apparently, Jim has obviously had an interview already with the Penguins. The Penguins are interested in Jimmy, obviously being part of that Carolina Hartford organization for, how long was he? He was there for many years, enough years that he had a piece of the Carolina Hurricanes ownership, which obviously he'd have to relinquish if he is named the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Word on the street is he might be having or has had a second interview. So the Penguins are very interested in Jim Rutherford. And you look at the other candidates, I mean, no offense to Tommy Fitzgerald or Julien Brisebois or Jason Botterill or even Pierre Maguire. But apparently Jimmy Rutherford looks like he might be the leading candidate right now to get that job. Not saying that's done, but he is the leading candidate right now is what I've been told.
And yeah, and you would have to think that if he wants this job, it's his. This is and if he goes for 2 interviews, that's a big sign. But like we talked about before, he's going to have to divest from ownership of the team. There's a lot involved if he's going to become general manager. So what I kind of think is interesting about this is this second interview. Who is this for? Is this for them interviewing him or him interviewing them? Because if you're going to make that move, you better be sure that the team is going to give you what you want to when you're divesting your ownership interest. So I wonder if it's go ahead, Mike.
Apparently, the reason for the dual interviews in Pittsburgh for a number of their candidates is because the first set of interviews is with Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle, and then the second interview is with I think it's David Morehouse. So they're basically getting, these GM candidates are going through the cavalcade of the ownership and management of the Penguins and getting the impression of everybody before they make a decision. So I'm not saying that Rutherford's not going to be the GM in Pittsburgh. I'm just a little skeptical about the ownership situation in Carolina, him divesting himself of that for a GM job in another place. I mean, it would, but it's very possible if he still wants to be a GM and, it's something that maybe in the future he can go back to Carolina because him and Peter Karmanos have a long relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a possibility, but
for sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
For sure. I think that's definitely the case. And he might just, you got to remember, he's a guy who's made a lot of money, and being, having an ownership part of a team is more about, when the team sells than it is about making money as it goes along. So if the Hurricanes aren't going to sell for another decade or so, and he still wants to be around hockey, yeah, he's going to go and play there, and then eventually he could buy back into it. But he just has to not have an ownership of it while he's a general manager of another team for obvious reasons. And the NHL is really, really strict about stuff like this. I remember, wasn't there something with Lewicki about this too? I'm trying to remember when Lewicki left L.A.
I think he had a small stake in AE, and then he had to divest himself to become chairman of MLS and E. So yeah, I think there was.
Yeah, and then we've seen this happen with a bunch of people. The NHL is obviously really sensitive to this kind of thing, and they should be, because people, even though you would never imagine in a million years that a guy like of his character would cheat in any way, shape, or form. They still have to be careful that that there's no perception of it.
Yeah, it's the appearance of impropriety, not the actual impropriety. So yeah. Exactly.
And that's I think they have to be very careful about that. I also heard some interesting stuff last night involving Hemsky, and what's going to happen with Hemsky. As he's a guy who, it's funny. Last night they were showing the top 10 goals of the year in between the third period and overtime on the big screen in LA, which is, when I say big screen, is big. The LA screen is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And Hemsky had the goal of the year, for the Ottawa Senators. That one, they call it the goal of the year. I thought there were other better goals of the year, but it was a great goal. Well, there's a rumor that the Anaheim Ducks have serious interest in Ales Hemsky. Senators wanted to bring him back, and he does seem to be an Ottawa Senator. In my mind, he seems like he fits the Ottawa Senator mold, especially if you're losing Spezza. But Josh, I've heard Anaheim. So, your thoughts?
For Hemsky?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big Hemsky fan, and I think I mentioned this the last time we were talking about Hemsky. Maybe even that was when at the end of the year when we were talking about him possibly being, or that he was going to be an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
I honestly believe Ottawa's still going to re-sign him. I don't know why. I have a weird feeling that they really liked him last year, and he played well for them. I would not be surprised at all before July 1st that he has re-signed with the Ottawa Senators. Maybe that's something I should look into.
It might be a negotiation thing
send
too.
A feeler out. Yeah.
Bruce Garriock in the Ottawa Sun earlier in the week came out and said that Hemsky is basically gone. Now that might because his agent is demanding around $5.5 million. And I'm sure it's basically a shot across the bow saying, "Hey, buddy, you're not worth $5.5 million." So if he comes back with a more reasonable,
no one's going to give him $5.5 million. I mean,
right.
that's that. But but again, this is negotiation, right? So
yeah, but Akin, this is the thing that we're going to have to deal with before July the 1st. This is a symptom of a free agent class that is lousy. This is not a deep pool of free agents. Defense and forward, there's not a ton of players out there. So Ales Hemsky, I mean, I like Dave Bolland as a player. Dave Bolland is not a $5 million player, but these guys can demand this kind of money because there's not a lot out there. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's what's going to, that's what's at play right now is the fact that these players. It is a buyer's market, or a seller's market, excuse me. That these players can demand, if Matt Niskanen can get $6 million, and I've been told that Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is interested in bringing back Matt Niskanen, but he's very possibly going to get as much as $6 million in free agency. If he's getting $6 million, he's not signing in Pittsburgh.
See, I disagree. He's signing in Pittsburgh, I think. I mean,
Well, X freezing up here, but
Yeah.
If it's for $6 million, he's not signing in Pittsburgh because they can't afford to sign him for $6 million. If he gets a cost-effective hometown discount type of deal, and agrees to a little less for more term, then I could see him staying in Pittsburgh. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, am I back? Can you see me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're there.
I'll say this about Niskanen. I do think he'll get that much in Pittsburgh, and the reason being is because of the market being so poor. And if you're the Penguins, you have to bring you need him. You just need a player like that.
And are they going to move out James Neal? I think that's still a big question mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something they would have to do before they would not sign Niskanen. But I think Niskanen is, I'm kind of reminded back to I'm going to use a Flyers analogy, but when the Flyers let Matt Carl go for a certain amount of money, which was it was about the same amount we're talking about. Matt Carl wanted like $5.5 million, something like that, and that's they let him go because they didn't think it was worth it.
He's the 5th D-man in Tampa now too.
Right, he is the 5th D-man in Tampa, but he was also somebody that the Flyers had to go out and get Joey McDonald to replace. Like there was he left a hole in Philadelphia because the way he slotted into this team. Yeah. That was important. Niskanen, I think, would do the same thing in Pittsburgh. They had to. You have to sometimes pay these guys. I mean, there were many times this year and last year that the Flyers would have loved to have Matt Carl back, and because he wasn't incredible, but he was also solid. He was and in a lot of ways I think kind of comparable to Niskanen. Niskanen probably has a little more upside, but not that. I think it's very similar in my mind. I'm not high on Niskanen.
But wasn't Carl he was a great partner to Pronger? He played with Pronger and played. He played off of Pronger very well, and obviously that's the criticism because he's going to Tampa Bay, and obviously he doesn't have Chris Pronger playing with him, so
right.
He now you see him for what he is, and I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying he's an average defenseman, and he's being paid an above average wage. But yeah, I mean but this is what happens in free agency. This is what's going to make this summer very interesting. Is the fact that are some of these teams going to bite on the cost of a player who's got some problems. I mean, Andrei Markov is a great veteran defenseman. If he decides not to re-sign with Montreal, he's got a knee that is so bad that, and shockingly, he got through the entire regular season without a serious recurrence of the knee injury. How long is it going to be before that knee problem flares up? Dan Boyle's 38 years old. He's a great player, possibly a Hall of Famer, but he's 38 years old. So
yeah, he is. He is, and he's But to me, there's almost like a top 4 defenseman price in the NHL. That if you're a top 4D guy, which I would make the argument that all the guys we're talking about are top 4 guys, that you're going to get over $5 million. I think that's kind of where it goes. I think that's the range, and it seems like that's where it's heading. You're going to get $5 million. Before we go, Josh, you've got some stuff.
Yeah, a couple things. Florida Panthers right now appears there's 5 candidates for the head coaching position: Gerard Gallant, Mark Crawford, Tom Rennie, Ron Wilson, and Bill Peters. But word on the street is Peters. Did I say interesting?
No. I just that was just for Ron Wilson. Sorry.
Word on the street is Peters has the upper hand, guys. Obviously, his relationship with Dale Talon dating back to their Chicago days. Talon hired Bill Peters as the Rockford AHL head coach, and currently, right now, Bill Peters is an assistant on Mike Babcock's staff. Say that 20 times fast.
Careful.
And so that's double entendre there. Yeah. I think I was talking a little too fast there, guys. Other stuff, Vancouver. The name I keep hearing is Willie Desjardins. Obviously, Texas is still in the playoffs. I haven't been following the AHL. They're still in the playoffs, so Willie obviously is not interviewed for the job yet. Maybe he has, and I just haven't heard that he has. Maybe they did. I don't know. But another name also, apparently Vancouver is awaiting to find out once the finals is over. they want to also talk with John Stevens, the assistant head coach of the Los Angeles Kings. So that right now is what I've been hearing, guys.
Okay, Eck is frozen up, so I'll take this opportunity.
Nothing.
There he is.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about Dion Phaneuf.
Okay. I mean, in the last week, I mean, a couple weeks ago, a report out of the Edmonton Journal came out regarding Dion Phaneuf and a possibility of a trade with the number 8 pick for the first pick overall. It didn't seem too far-fetched because Florida in their current situation is looking to add veterans, and the possibility of adding a Phaneuf who's an all-star defenseman would make a bit of sense. Now, that couple, to move forward a couple weeks, Howard Berger mentioned he was speaking to a couple of his sources, saying that there's a possible bigger deal involved. Involving Nazem Kadri and Ed Jovanovski being added to the deal. Let me just say, if the truth of Ron Wilson being interviewed and going to Florida happens, there's not a chance in hell that Nazem Kadri will go to Florida, because the two did not like each other too much in Toronto. Nazem Kadri basically said that Ron Wilson prevented him from starting his NHL career. So I don't think if Ron Wilson becomes coach in Florida that Nazem Kadri is soon to follow. But I don't think that Nazem Kadri and Dion Phaneuf is. I think it's actually too much to pay for a move up of 7 slots in the draft. But I do think that there's something to this. Mike Zeisberger from the Toronto Sun, who is somebody I respect, reported that the Leafs had a late interview with a couple. I think with one of the top prospects at the NHL Combine late last week, a player that they would not have. There's no chance this player is going to be drafted 8th overall. It's somebody who's going to go in the top 2 or 3, and they scheduled a late interview with him. And according to Zeisberger, the Leafs were basically doing their due diligence because they might see a window to move their way up into the top of the first round. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I do think Dion Phaneuf is going to be traded before July the 1st, when a lot of these restrictions come in on his new deal. Florida makes sense. I think he would go there gladly, and I think that the Leafs. The question is, if they get the number 1 pick, are they going to take Aaron Ekblad, or are they going to take a kid like Sam Bennett or Sam Reinhart? Who I don't know whether they're ready to be an NHLer at the age of 18, but we'll see. It's very interesting, and a lot of the insiders are talking about this. So I think where there's smoke, there is fire in Toronto.
Yeah,
hey guys, the funny thing. Want to hear something funny? I should ask you.
Sure.
Okay. Let's hear something funny. The LA Kings will pay Drew Doughty $21.5 million over the next 3 seasons. The Leafs will pay Dion Phaneuf $23.5 million over the next 3 seasons. Who got the better deal? The Kings or the Leafs?
Well, it all depends. It all depends on when the player becomes a free agent.
Yeah,
okay?
It does.
Do I think that Dennis Weidman is worth $5-point-something million? Not a chance in hell. But he became a free agent at the right time. So, I mean, Dion Phaneuf is overpriced right now. In a couple years, the $7 million might be on par with what other defensemen are being paid.
Yeah.
I got something to add too, guys, if you can hear me.
We can hear you and see you.
Okay, good, because I can never tell. Sorry, we'll hopefully fix the broadcasting on off of Wi-Fi, which is probably never. So okay, so we are.
See your credential on the back.
I know, I had to hide it back there. I thought that was. What I've been hearing a lot. Last week there was talk about R.J. Umberger for Gagne. That was big. I wasn't buying into that at all. And R.J.'s name was mentioned in a trade in this as a possible scenario with this, but he wasn't the main piece of that deal. There was something else there's another prospect that Edmonton really likes, in the in that. So, and there's another player from Edmonton. So it'll actually be a 2-for-2 trade. I heard Gagne and Umberger being part of that deal, but not necessarily the whole deal. So I would keep an eye on that. Also, that's been going on for a couple years now. It feels like, but it's one of these situations where I just like Gagne. Mike?
I was gonna say, repeat. You were saying the Sabres were interested in Gagne as well because you broke up there for a second.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Sabres are interested in Gagne as well. I believe the Sabres need to, how would I say, guys like Gagne, they who are roughly in that age, they can't just go so young that the Oilers have fallen to. I think so. Gagne does make some sense in Buffalo. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, he does in one way, but he doesn't in others. He does because he's a talented player. He's under contract for a few years. Just signed a deal, I think, last year. The problem is that the Sabres have basically about 3 or 4 forwards that are essentially the same as Sam Gagne. Tyler Ennis, Cody Hodgson. They have a bunch of smallish, talented, skilled forwards, and I don't think that, especially if they have to give up, I mean, who knows if they have to give up. I can't see Edmonton trading Gagne for a first-round pick. I could see them wanting a defenseman. The Sabres are deep in prospect defensemen, so that might make some sense. But I think, again, and I keep going to this, I think adding players this year probably is not going to happen. You could see, I think the Sabres will be a big player in free agency and in trades in the summer of 2015. But I do not think they will add one significant player from now until the trade deadline. If anything, they're going to probably trade players like Drew Stafford and Tyler Ennis possibly at the deadline. They're going to bottom out, and they're going to finish as low as they can to get either Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel, and I don't see any way they deviate from that path.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's as we've learned before, it's hard for teams to try to finish last. They have a lot of good young players, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be harder than they think. And it's obviously they want Connor McDavid, and I think they want Connor McDavid out in Calgary too. But I think there's a certain amount of, these teams are going to. Can these teams bottom out? So can they? It's just. And is it even? Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to get hockey players not to play hockey, and it's a hard thing to get. And all you can do is put the worst team on the ice you can put on, and even then, these guys are good enough that they're gonna. It's just the Sabres have a lot of good young players, and they are set up in a really good way.
It's tough. It's tough to control. I mean, okay, you want your player. You're not going to go out and tell your player. This is the same thing that happened in Toronto. You're not going to tell your players to go out and tank. It's not going to happen. They have careers. They want to make money. They want to score goals. They want to play well. They want to succeed in their careers. The thing is that this team, essentially, with Ryan Miller, with a couple veterans like Steve Ott and Matt Molson, finished 30th. If they don't add anything, they're giving these players an opportunity. They're going to give Tyler Ennis, Drew Stafford, all these players ice time to succeed. They're going to try. They're going to play as well as they possibly can. They have a bunch of young defensemen who they think they're going to bring along naturally, playing in the AHL, maybe playing some spot duty in the NHL. They have Jonas Enroth and Michael Neuwirth as goaltenders, so they have NHL goaltending. But if they do not add significant players, this team very likely is going to end up in the bottom 5 of the NHL, and then. And not by some grand scheme of tanking and telling these players to throw games. They're just going to do it because these players right now, they don't have a deep enough team to succeed. And I think that's the grand plan, because then you get these players a year of experience. They will be better at the end of it, and then you add probably a Sam Bennett or a Sam Reinhart from this year's draft and either Connor McDavid or Eichel in next year's draft, and then you have something to build on for the fans of Buffalo who have been suffering for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw another name at you guys. Everyone talks about Connor McDavid next year, but there's a guy that's going to give him a run for his money. I want you guys to remember the name Mitch Marner. He plays with the London Knights. He was a rookie this year. He tied Corey Perry's rookie record in the OHL this year, 52 points or something as a
Yeah.
rookie. He's going to be a top 3 pick next year, and a lot of people are going to be talking about this kid. I've watched him a lot. I've watched a lot of London Knights games. He's well beyond his years for 17 or for 16. For a 16-year-old, he looks pretty mature, and he's a
Yeah.
great hockey player. And then we're even using him on the point, on the power play near the end of the season and in the Memorial Cup. This kid's going to be phenomenal. So we're going to start hearing Connor McDavid's name mentioned with Mitch Marner. You heard it here first. You're going to hear Mitch Marner's name a lot the next year, guys.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned before this too, Josh, and I people are really high on this kid. It's going to be it's obviously a big draft, and what you can sort of say with the Sabres is, on one hand, you don't want to not get the ping pong balls to fall your way to get Connor McDavid, but on the other hand, you really did you do have other guys there next year. So if you don't get Connor McDavid, you still have the players you need. You still have a couple guys.
And they have
Mike?
3 first-round picks. They have theirs, the Islanders, and St. Louis. I don't think St. Louis is going to end up in the bottom 5, but knowing Garth Snow, there's a possibility they could end up in the bottom 5. So
yeah, having the Islanders pick next year is enormous. I mean that's crazy. That
Makes no sense why they did that.
No, I think
That's another bad Garth Snow move.
No,
this guy.
It makes sense, Josh. It does make sense because they have an off season and a free agent year to spend Charles Wong's money badly.
But who wants to go to the Islanders, guys? I mean, honestly, there's a lot of players in this league I guarantee you would not want to be on that team. Remember what happened with Nabokov when he first found out he was going to the Islanders? He didn't want to report.
Thing, though, Josh. I agree with you to a degree, but what happens is when guys go to the Islanders, they end up loving it there. And it's not there is a definite. I mean, there are teams in the league that I think that I do believe, and I'm not going to name names that players don't want to go play for.
Yeah.
Some of them are, in polar bear land. But I think that this team here in the island that's not one of them usually. I mean, there are players who don't want to go there for reasons, but then they end up getting there and they end up loving it. I mean,
right.
And
Nabokov liked it after he went there.
Nabokov liked it. The defenseman, what was his name? He just retired.
Lubomir
Vishnowsky loved it eventually. Didn't want to report there. I was always against the Islanders' concept of bringing guys in who don't want to be there. I think that that's a bad locker room thing in general. But there are people who, and the Islanders, remember, they're going to move to Brooklyn too, and Brooklyn is a fun place to be. There's going to be a lot of excitement around that. And Long Island is a great place to live. People love living there, and Islanders fans are real hockey fans. So it's not that they don't want to go there. It's just that it's a tough. The team has sucked for so long.
And I think what's going to happen, Tavares comes back. Now they've signed Halak as a goaltender. They may sign somebody as a backup because they've had some problems with their backup goaltending when the starting goalie has gotten hurt. I think they're going to be in on Ryan Callahan if Ryan Callahan doesn't sign in Tampa because a guy with New York pedigree, with New York credibility, and a way to stick it to the Rangers. I could see that happening. I don't know if he's the scorer that they're going to put. They need to add a scorer to put with Tavares after Molson left and after Vanek left. But I think that they can make additions to make themselves a good enough team to either sneak into the playoffs or at least prevent their first round pick from being a top 5 pick. So I see that the method to Garth Snow's madness. I just know that when it seems to be Murphy's Law, whenever something bad happens, it usually happens to the Islanders, and they could end up giving the Sabres the top 2 picks in the draft.
Yeah, that could be crazy. Well, we are out of time, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching today. Please subscribe to this on YouTube. We're going to have some big news soon about the podcast that we really want to share with you guys. So if you get in now, another thing I wanted to throw out there before we stop, I'm going to be doing some Google Hangouts from my Google Glass. I know this couldn't be more geeky or nerdy sounding than that, but I'm going to do them tonight. I might do one from the party a little bit. So what I kind of am looking for is a group of fans out there who watch this show, who are interested, who are on Google Plus. who want to, on occasion, be a part of these. So watching, if you have a pretty good internet connection and stuff like that, do some fans come in on the Hangouts as well. Maybe I would like to eventually get to like a situation where we have, once a month or so, a guest, that's a fan. That's just somebody who watches the games and who wants to come on here. Maybe you've got your own blog or whatever. That would be great. But what I need to do is I need to create a Google circle of people who are interested in this kind of thing that I would invite to some of these Google Hangouts that we have that aren't necessarily shows, but just I was just realizing that I'm really lucky to get to do some of the things I do. And the other day when I'm at the finals, I have Google Glass or whatever. I'm thinking to myself, it would be really cool to take some people along with this. And so tonight, same kind of thing at the party. So if you're interested in that thing, follow me on Google Plus, email me at eklund@hockeybuzz.com and say, okay, yeah, I would like to be put on that circle, and then I will send you invites when we have these sort of special gatherings. And that will tie in something that we're doing later as well, which will be very exciting. So good stuff happening ahead. So enjoy your next day here. We have no hockey tonight, no hockey tomorrow night, but we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow to talk rumors. I think tomorrow we should make it just a rumor day because there's not going to be any real stuff to talk about. So we'll have our Friday rumor Ganza day or something like that. Remember to steer clear of Mike Babcock's staff, and we'll talk to you then. Without the buzz, it's just hockey. See you soon.